The Deception, the bridge of the Valtorian warship Crimson. Talon hummed with controlled energy as Commander Thesa reviewed the scanning data. Her silver skin reflected the pale blue light of the holographic displays, and her three-fingered hands moved across the control surface with practiced precision. The Valtorian Empire had ruled this sector of space for 5,000 years, and Thesa had served in its military for 70 of those years. She had seen many species, conquered many worlds, and never once had she encountered a civilization that could truly challenge Valtorian supremacy. "Commander, we are approaching the target system," her navigation officer reported. The young officer's voice carried the confidence that came from serving in an unstoppable empire. "The planet designated as Meridian 7 is in visual range." Thesa leaned forward, studying the green and blue world that appeared on the main view screen. It was a beautiful planet, rich with water and vegetation. The humans had chosen well when they established their colony here. According to Valtorian intelligence, approximately 80,000 humans lived on Meridian 7, farming the land and mining the planet's mineral resources. It was a peaceful colony, far from the human home world called Earth. "Begin detailed scans," Thesa ordered. "I want to know everything about their defenses, their population centers, and their technology level." The Valtorian reconnaissance fleet consisted of 12 warships, each one carrying advanced weapons and shields that represented centuries of technological development. Thesa's mission was simple: evaluate the human military capabilities and determine whether they posed any threat to the Empire. The humans had expanded into space only 80 years ago, which made them infants by galactic standards. But the Empire had learned long ago that even young species could sometimes surprise you. "Commander, I am detecting orbital platforms around the planet," the tactical officer announced. "They appear to be defensive satellites." Counting 32 installations. They are armed with what look like projectile weapons and basic energy shields. Thesa nodded slowly. Projectile weapons. How primitive. The Valtorians had abandoned such crude technology 3,000 years ago. "What about ships?" "Scanning now, Commander. I am detecting multiple vessels in orbit. They appear to be a mix of cargo transports and smaller craft." "Wait, I am picking up military signatures." Counting 30 vessels that match the profile of warships. "They are moving to intercept us." 30 ships against 12. The humans had numerical superiority, but Thesa felt no concern. Quality mattered more than quantity in space warfare, and Valtorian ships were the finest in the galaxy. Alert status 2. Charge weapons, but do not fire unless fired upon. Open a communication channel. A human face appeared on her screen moments later. It was a male with dark skin and short black hair. He wore a simple uniform with markings that suggested military rank. "Valtorian vessel, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the Meridian Defense Force. You have entered restricted space. State your intentions." "I am Commander Thesa of the Valtorian Empire," she replied, keeping her tone neutral. "We are conducting a routine survey of this sector. We did not realize this system was claimed." Captain Webb's expression remained stern. "This system was registered with the Galactic Navigation Authority 15 years ago. You should have records of our territorial boundaries. I must ask you to withdraw immediately." Thesa considered her options. She could retreat and report back to the Empire, or she could test the human defenses now and gather more useful intelligence. The decision was easy. "Captain Webb, the Valtorian Empire does not recognize human territorial claims in this region. We will conduct our survey as planned. If you attempt to interfere, we will respond with appropriate force." The human captain's jaw tightened. "Commander, you are making a serious mistake. Leave now, and we can resolve this through diplomatic channels." "Your warning is noted," Thesa said, and closed the communication channel. She turned to her weapons officer. Target their orbital platforms first. Disable them with precision strikes. I want to see how quickly they can respond. A crimson talon fired. Beams of concentrated energy lanced across space, striking 3 of the orbital platforms. The platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their debris scattering into the void. Immediately, the human warships accelerated toward the Valtorian fleet, their own weapons coming online. Enemy vessels are firing, the tactical officer reported. Detecting incoming projectiles. Impact in 15 seconds. Thesa watched with interest as the human attack developed. The projectiles were moving fast, much faster than she had expected. They must be using some kind of magnetic acceleration system. Clever, but ultimately futile against Valtorian shields. Maintain shields. Let them see how ineffective their weapons are. The first wave of projectiles struck the Crimson Talon's shields. Most of them bounced off harmlessly, their kinetic energy absorbed and dispersed. But 3 projectiles punched through, impacting the outer hull with enough force to make the ship shudder. Alarm indicators flashed on Thesa's console. Hull breach on Deck 7. Her damage control officer called out. Sealing compartment now. Minor damage, no casualties. Thesa felt a flicker of surprise. The human weapons had actually penetrated their shields, if only briefly. That was unexpected. Increase shield strength by 20%. Return fire. Target their largest vessels. The battle intensified rapidly. The Valtorian fleet spread out, using their superior maneuverability to avoid the worst of the human attacks. Their energy weapons carved through space, striking human ships with devastating accuracy. The first human vessel exploded after taking multiple hits, its hull rupturing and venting atmosphere. Then a second ship died, and a third, but the humans fought with a ferocity that surprised Thesa. They did not retreat when outmatched. They did not surrender when their ships began dying. Instead, they pressed their attack with increasing desperation, launching wave after wave of those high-velocity projectiles. Several more penetrated Valtorian shields, causing minor damage to 3 different ships. Captain Webb's face appeared on Thesa's screen again, transmitted from his damaged bridge. Smoke filled the background, and she could see injured crew members being helped away. Commander Thesa, cease fire immediately. We are transmitting a distress signal to Earth. Reinforcements are coming. Let them come, Thesa replied coldly. If this is the best humanity can offer, your reinforcements will fare no better. The battle lasted 6 hours. By the end, all 30 human warships had been destroyed or disabled. The orbital platforms were gone. The planet below was defenseless. Thesa's fleet had suffered damage to 4 vessels, none of it critical, and had lost 43 crew members. It was a higher cost than she had anticipated, but still a clear victory. Commander, we are receiving multiple transmissions from the planet's surface, her communications officer reported. They are begging for mercy. They say they are civilians with no military capability remaining. Thesa considered bombarding the colony as an example to other human worlds. But her mission was reconnaissance, not conquest. She had gathered valuable intelligence about human military capabilities. That was enough for now. Maintain position in orbit. Allow no ships to leave or enter the system. Send our findings to Imperial Command and await further orders. As her crew worked to compile their report, Thesa reviewed the battle recordings. The humans had fought well for such a young species. Their projectile weapons were surprisingly effective, and their tactical coordination had been professional. But they were still clearly inferior to Valtorian technology. Their ships were smaller, slower, and less durable. Their shields were weak. Their weapons, while dangerous, lacked the range and power of Valtorian energy cannons. 3 days later, the response came from the Valtorian High Command. Thesa read the orders with satisfaction. The Empire had decided that humanity posed no significant threat. The destruction of their defense force at Meridian 7 proved they were technologically backward and militarily weak. A full invasion fleet would be assembled to conquer all human territories. The Empire would absorb humanity's colonies, enslave their populations, and add their resources to Valtorian wealth. Thesa felt no guilt about what was coming. This was the natural order of the galaxy. Strong species dominated weak ones. The Valtorian Empire had built its greatness by conquering hundreds of worlds. Humanity would be just another entry in that long list. What Thesa did not know was that Captain Marcus Webb had succeeded in his final act. Before his ship exploded, he had transmitted complete tactical data about the Valtorian fleet back to Earth. Every detail of their shields, weapons, maneuverability, and tactics had been recorded and analyzed. The human military had studied this information with great interest, because the 30 ships at Meridian 7 were not a military defense force. They were the Survey and Research Group, a collection of older vessels used for scientific exploration and basic patrol duties. Their primary mission was mapping new systems and protecting civilian transports from pirates and asteroids. They had some weapons for self-defense, but they were never intended to fight a real war. The Meridian Defense Force was not part of Earth's actual military structure. It was a local volunteer organization staffed by civilians who had received basic combat training. Captain Webb and his crew were farmers and miners who spent most of their time growing food and extracting minerals. They fought valiantly because they were defending their homes, but they were not professional soldiers. Earth's real military was something else entirely. Something the Valtorian Empire had not yet encountered. Something that would soon teach them a lesson about assumptions and arrogance. On Earth, in the underground military command center beneath the city of Geneva, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chun watched the recordings from Meridian 7 for the 5th time. Her face remained expressionless as she watched Captain Webb's ship explode, taking its brave crew with it. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations, coordinating the defense of humanity's 57 colony worlds. Admiral, the Valtorian fleet is still holding position at Meridian 7, her intelligence officer reported. They appear to be waiting for reinforcements before beginning orbital bombardment. Good, Sean said quietly. That gives our people on the ground time to evacuate to the shelters. How long until our sector defense force can reach Meridian 7? The 3rd Sector Fleet can be there in 72 hours, Admiral. That's 15,000 ships. Sean nodded. Alert them to prepare for deployment, but tell them to hold position in adjacent systems until the Valtorians make their move. I want to see what they commit to this invasion. A younger officer at a nearby console looked up nervously. Admiral, shouldn't we rush to defend Meridian 7 immediately? Those are 80,000 civilians. We have already evacuated 40,000 to the underground shelters, Sean replied, her voice calm but firm. They can survive there for months if necessary. The rest are sheltering in reinforced structures. Casualties will be minimized, but we need intelligence more than we need a premature battle. She turned back to the main display, which showed a map of human space. 57 colony worlds spread across 20 light years, each one defended by its own survey and research group. Just like Meridian 7, each one appearing vulnerable and weak to any observer who did not know the truth. The truth was that humanity had learned from history. They remembered how civilizations on Earth had fallen because they were unprepared for war. They remembered how peace-loving nations had been conquered by aggressive empires because they assumed diplomacy would always prevail. When humanity reached the stars, they made a collective decision: hope for peace, but prepare for war. The survey and research groups were the visible face of human military presence. They were small, lightly armed, and seemed to represent humanity's entire defensive capability. They existed partly for legitimate scientific and security purposes, but also to create a carefully crafted illusion. Behind that illusion stood the real military structure. Each region of human space had a sector defense force, massive fleets designed to protect multiple worlds from serious threats. Beyond those were the strategic reserve fleets, held at secret locations for emergencies. And beyond even those were the construction yards, vast orbital facilities that could build warships faster than any enemy could destroy them. The Valtorians had encountered humanity's facade and mistaken it for reality. They had defeated a research group and concluded that humans were weak. It was exactly what Earth's military planners had hoped would happen. Because an enemy that underestimates you has already lost the war, Admiral Chun allowed herself a small, cold smile. "Let them come," she said softly. "Let them bring their invasion fleet. Let them commit their forces to conquering what they think is a weak species. And then we will show them what humanity is truly capable of." The officers around her said nothing, but she could feel their grim satisfaction. They had all watched the recordings from Meridian 7. They had all seen brave civilians die defending their homes against a superior enemy. Now those deaths would be avenged, and the Valtorian Empire would learn a lesson they would never forget. In the depths of space, the trap was set. The bait had been taken. All that remained was for the predator to step into the snare, confident and unaware that they were about to become the prey. The revelation: the Valtorian Grand Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space like a steel storm. 5,000 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. It was the largest military force the Valtorian Empire had assembled in 300 years. And Supreme Commander Valen stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, watching the displays with quiet satisfaction. Valen was old even by Valtorian standards. His silver skin had faded to pale gray, and his movements were slower than they once were. But his mind remained sharp, honed by 2 centuries of military service. He had commanded fleets in 40 different campaigns and never once experienced defeat. This human conquest would be his final achievement before retirement, a fitting conclusion to a legendary career. "All ships report ready, Supreme Commander," his fleet coordinator announced. "The Armada is at full combat readiness. We await your orders." "Begin the advance," Valen commanded. "Proceed to the human colony world of New Harbin. We will demonstrate our power there first, then move systematically through their territory. I want every human world to see what happens when a species defies the Empire." The massive fleet began moving, covering the distance to New Harbin in just under 4 days. Valen spent that time reviewing the intelligence reports from Commander Thesa's reconnaissance mission at Meridian 7. The humans had fought bravely, but ineffectively. Their weapons were primitive, their ships were weak, and their tactical doctrine was simplistic. The battle had proven that humanity posed no real threat to Valtorian supremacy. When the Armada arrived at New Harbin, they found exactly what Valen expected. 200 human warships waited in orbit around the blue-green planet. They were larger than the vessels destroyed at Meridian 7, with heavier armor and more weapons, but still clearly inferior to Valtorian technology. The humans had assembled what appeared to be their primary battle fleet to defend this important colony. 200 ships, Valen's tactical officer observed. They must have stripped defenses from other worlds to gather this many vessels in one place. This will be their main resistance. Valen studied the tactical display carefully. Something felt wrong, though he could not identify what. The human formation seemed too organized, too professional for a species with only 80 years of spaceflight experience. Their ships maintained precise spacing and positioning, suggesting a level of training and discipline that contradicted everything the reconnaissance reports had indicated. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "Let us offer them one chance to surrender." A human face appeared on the main view screen. She was a woman with pale skin and red hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was dark blue, with gold insignia on the shoulders. Her expression was calm, almost serene, as if she faced these odds every day. "I am Commodore Elena Rodriguez, commanding the New Harbin Defense Fleet. You are in violation of human territorial space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Valen almost laughed. She commanded 200 ships against 5,000 and spoke of consequences. "Commodore Rodriguez, I am Supreme Commander Valen of the Valtorian Empire. You are hopelessly outnumbered. Surrender now, and your lives will be spared. Resist, and every ship in your fleet will be destroyed." "Asterisk, we do not surrender," Rodriguez replied simply. "We will defend our homes with everything we have. If you want this world, you will have to take it over our bodies." "So be it," Valen said, and closed the channel. He turned to his weapons coordinator. "All ships, open fire. Destroy their fleet quickly. I want this over within the hour." The Valtorian armada attacked in waves, their energy weapons creating a brilliant light show across the darkness of space. The human fleet responded immediately, but not in the way Valen expected. Instead of holding their defensive position, they accelerated toward the Valtorian fleet at maximum speed, closing the distance rapidly. "They are charging us," the tactical officer said, surprised. "This is a suicide tactic." "Let them come," Valen replied. "It will only make our victory faster." But as the human ships entered close range, Valen began to realize this was not a desperate suicide charge. It was a calculated tactical maneuver. The human vessels split into smaller groups, weaving between Valtorian ships with surprising agility. Their weapons fired in coordinated volleys, concentrating firepower on specific targets rather than spreading it thin. And their projectile weapons, those same primitive kinetic launchers that had barely damaged the reconnaissance fleet, now proved far more effective at close range. Asterisk. The first Valtorian cruiser exploded when 6 human ships converged on it simultaneously, overwhelming its shields with sustained fire. Then a second ship died, and a third. The humans were trading losses as well, but they were inflicting more damage than Valen had anticipated. Their ships were tougher than the reconnaissance reports suggested, and their crews fought with skill that contradicted their supposed inexperience. "Reformulate attack pattern," Valen ordered, his confidence wavering slightly. "Concentrate fire. Do not allow them to isolate our vessels." The battle raged for 3 hours instead of 1. The human fleet fought with extraordinary courage and tactical sophistication, making the Valtorian armada work for every meter of space. But numbers eventually told the story. One by one, the human ships were destroyed or disabled. Commodore Rodriguez's flagship was among the last to fall, taking heavy damage but continuing to fight until its reactor finally failed. When the battle ended, the human defense fleet was annihilated. All 200 ships were destroyed or drifting as lifeless hulks. The Valtorian armada had lost 83 vessels, far more than Valen had expected, but still a decisive victory. The planet below was now defenseless and ready for occupation. "Supreme Commander, we are detecting unusual energy readings," the sensor officer reported suddenly. "Multiple sources, very large, appearing at the edge of the system." Valen turned sharply to the tactical display. What he saw there made his blood run cold. Ships were emerging from faster-than-light travel all around his fleet. Hundreds of them, then thousands. They appeared from every direction simultaneously, materializing out of nowhere in a carefully coordinated ambush. "Count them," Valen demanded, his voice tight. The sensor officer's hands trembled as he worked his console. I am detecting massive fleet signatures. Current count is 3,000 ships. No, 5,000. Still counting. Supreme Commander, they are everywhere. 15,000 ships confirmed. All of them human vessels. 15,000 ships. The number was impossible. The humans had just lost their entire defense fleet. Where had 15,000 more ships come from? Valen stared at the tactical display, watching as red contact markers surrounded his blue fleet icons. His armada of 5,000 was now outnumbered 3-1. This cannot be accurate, he said. Verify the sensor readings. Verified, Supreme Commander. All contacts are confirmed valid. We are surrounded by 15,000 human warships, and they are moving into attack formations. A new face appeared on Valen's view screen, replacing the dead Commodore Rodriguez. This was a man with dark brown skin and gray hair, wearing the same dark blue uniform, but with more elaborate insignia. His expression was hard and unforgiving. Supreme Commander Valen, I am Admiral Marcus Washington, commanding the 3rd Sector Defense Force. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Power down your weapons immediately and prepare to be boarded. Valen found his voice with difficulty. This is impossible. Our intelligence indicated you had only 200 ships. We destroyed your entire fleet. You destroyed a defense fleet, Washington corrected. A regional patrol force assigned to protect New Harbin and surrounding colonies. The fleet you now face is the 3rd Sector Defense Force, designed to respond to major threats across multiple star systems. This is what a real human military force looks like. The implication struck Valen like a physical blow. The reconnaissance mission at Meridian 7 had encountered research vessels. The battle at New Harbin had engaged a local defense fleet. Neither encounter had revealed humanity's true military strength. The Voltorians had been fighting shadows and mistaken them for the substance. You deliberately deceived us, Valen said, anger mixing with his fear. You allowed us to destroy your ships at Meridian 7 to make us underestimate you? We did not allow anything, Washington replied coldly. The people of Meridian 7 died defending their homes because your empire chose violence over diplomacy. Their sacrifice bought us time to mobilize our real military forces. Now you will answer for their deaths and for every other life you have taken. Around the Voltorian flagship, the 15,000 human ships moved into position with military precision. They formed concentric rings around the Voltorian armada, weapons charged and ready. Valen realized with growing horror that his fleet was trapped. If fighting started, the Voltorians would be destroyed completely. His 5,000 ships could not defeat 15,000, especially not when surrounded and unable to maneuver. Admiral Washington, we can negotiate, Valen said, forcing calm into his voice. There is no need for more bloodshed. The Voltorian Empire is willing to discuss terms. The time for negotiation ended when you opened fire on Meridian 7, Washington replied. You have 10 minutes to power down all weapons and shields. Any ship that refuses will be destroyed. Comply or die. Those are your only options. Valen looked around his bridge at his officers. They stared back at him with expressions ranging from shock to terror. These were veteran warriors who had served in dozens of campaigns, and none of them had ever faced a situation like this. The Voltorian Empire had always been the stronger force, always been the conqueror. Now they were the ones facing annihilation. Supreme Commander, what are your orders? His weapons coordinator asked quietly. Before Valen could answer, another communication came through. This time the face on the screen belonged to a human woman with Asian features and short black hair. She wore a different uniform, gray instead of blue, with markings that suggested civilian authority rather than military rank. Supreme Commander Valen, I am Director Kim of Human Intelligence Services. Before you make your decision, there is something you should know. Your communication networks have been compromised since you entered our space. We have been monitoring all of your transmissions, including your fleet's internal database access. Valen felt ice form in his chest. What are you saying? I am saying we know that your officers have been researching our military structure using our public information networks. We know that some of them have discovered the truth about our force organization. Would you like me to share that information with you directly, Supreme Commander? Valen wanted to refuse, but he found himself nodding. He needed to understand what he was facing. Director Kim's expression remained neutral as she spoke. The human military is organized into 3 primary components. First are the survey and research groups, small fleets assigned to exploration and basic security duties. Your reconnaissance mission at Meridian 7 encountered one of these groups. Second are the defense fleets, regional forces assigned to protect specific colony worlds. You fought one of these fleets here at New Harbin. Third are the sector defense forces, major military formations designed to respond to serious threats across multiple star systems. That is what you face now. Asterisk, she paused, letting that information sink in before continuing. But those are just our active military forces, Supreme Commander. We also maintain strategic reserve fleets, currently numbering over 50,000 ships, kept at secret locations throughout human space. These reserves are activated only in cases of total war. And beyond even those, we have construction yards capable of producing 500 new warships per month during full mobilization. The numbers were staggering. Valen felt his worldview crumbling. The Valtorian Empire maintained one unified fleet for all purposes. They had approximately 12,000 warships total, accumulated over centuries of expansion. Humanity, after only 80 years in space, had somehow built a military force that dwarfed the Empire's strength by a factor of 10 or more. How? Valen whispered. How is this possible? Because we learned from our history, Director Kim replied. On our homeworld, we watched peaceful civilizations fall to aggressive empires because they were unprepared for war. We watched as species that valued science and exploration were conquered by species that valued only military might. When we reached the stars, we decided that would not be our fate. We would build a society devoted to peace, but we would maintain the military strength to defend that peace against any threat. Admiral Washington spoke again. Your time is running out, Supreme Commander. 8 minutes remaining. Make your choice. Asterisk Valen looked at the tactical display one final time. 15,000 human ships surrounded his fleet. Another 50,000 were supposedly waiting in reserve. And Earth could build hundreds more every month. The mathematics were brutal and clear. The Valtorian Empire had attacked a species that appeared weak, but was actually far stronger than the Empire itself. They had been deceived not by lies, but by their own assumptions. All ships, power down weapons and shields, Valen said quietly. Comply with human demands. Prepare to be boarded. Around him, his officers carried out the orders with heavy hearts. The Valtorian Grand Armada, the greatest military force the Empire had assembled in 3 centuries, surrendered without firing a shot. One by one, the warships that had terrorized dozens of species went dark and silent, waiting for the humans to take control. Asterisk. Over the following days, human Marines boarded every Valtorian vessel. They were professional and efficient, treating captured crews with respect, but maintaining strict security. Valen and his senior officers were transferred to a human prison ship, where they would await trial for war crimes related to the attack on Meridian 7. During the long journey back to Earth, Valen had time to reflect on his failure. He had commanded fleets for 2 centuries and never lost a battle. But he had lost this war before it truly began, defeated by his own arrogance and assumptions. The Voltorians had looked at humanity's visible military forces and concluded they were weak. They had never considered that what they saw might be only a fraction of the truth on Earth. In the underground command center beneath Geneva, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chon watched as the last Voltorian ship was secured. Around her, officers cheered and celebrated the bloodless victory. But Chun felt no joy, only relief that the war had ended before more lives were lost. "Admiral, we are receiving communications from 17 species that were previously subjugated by the Voltorian Empire," her communications officer reported. "They are asking about the status of Voltorian forces and inquiring whether humanity would be willing to provide military assistance in their liberation efforts." Chon nodded slowly. The Voltorian Empire's defeat would reshape the galactic political landscape. Other species would see that the supposedly invincible empire could be beaten. Rebellions would spread. The old order would collapse. And humanity, whether they wanted it or not, would be seen as a new major power in the galaxy. "Prepare diplomatic teams," she ordered. "We will help any species that wants to free themselves from Voltorian rule. But we will not become conquerors ourselves. Make that clear in all communications." As the celebrations continued around her, Chun returned to her private office and opened the secure file that contained humanity's actual military strength. The public numbers were accurate as far as they went, but incomplete. The strategic reserve fleets numbered not 50,000 ships, but closer to 120,000. The construction yards could produce not 500 ships per month, but over 2,000 during full wartime mobilization. And there were experimental weapons programs that made even standard human warships look primitive by comparison. Humanity had learned its lesson well. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Show enough strength to deter aggression, but hide enough to surprise any enemy that miscalculated. Let potential enemies see the defense forces and assume that was everything. Let them think humans were strong, but not overwhelmingly so. And if they chose war, despite that warning, teach them just how badly they had miscalculated. The Voltorian Empire had made that mistake, and their Grand Armada now sat in human custody, a monument to the price of arrogance. Other species would learn from this example. They would understand that humanity did not seek war, but they would also understand that humanity was prepared for it, on a scale few could imagine. Chun closed the file and looked at the star map on her wall. 57 human colony worlds growing every year. Hundreds of thousands of ships, built and building. Millions of people serving in the military, with millions more in reserve. And at the heart of it all, a simple philosophy that had guided humanity since ancient times. If you want peace, prepare for war. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson. And humanity would be the teacher. Asterisk.